Stuart, I have a question. Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
Like many of us, I have difficult people that I need to work with. And how's the best way for me to expand to encompass a difficult situation?
Well, to be honest, Bob, you're doing it. The only way I know to expand to where difficult people, conflicting situations, all that drama, that soap opera doesn't affect you is you have to build your system inside that is strong enough to where, what seems to be some enormous mountain is a tiny little hill. I mean, you have to develop yourself inside. I mean, look, as soon as you step out of the temple, life gets pretty crazy. That's why people like to live in ashrams, although ashrams are pretty crazy too, but at least there's some sense of communion, but you step out into the world and, look, I was in business, I don't know, long time, 30 years, 25, 30 years. And one of the reasons I really did my business every day, because it put me up against the exact situation that you're talking about, Mark. Dealing with the egos of very wealthy people and people who were, big time dealers in art and who thought they were the king of whatever, and having to deal with that, literally every day of my life while I was in business. It was a constant reminder to me, Stuart, you haven't arrived yet. You're pissed off at these people. They get you upset. You haven't arrived yet. And I would sit down in the meditation classes or just sit down at home and do my inner work and say, my chakra system has to be more highly developed. I need a greater amount of strength. And life is the perfect master. It will constantly remind you that you haven't arrived yet. And instead of being intimidated and threatened by it and angry because, thank you, I need to work on myself. The energy of God, spirit, it's infinite. There's no limit. And the lack of consciousness on the earth is also without limitation. So we need to recognize this and use it to really grow in our lives, that people's bullshit, it can produce an incredible garden inside us if we're willing to transform it into energy that really nurtures us inside instead of making it into something that's impossible for us to deal with. I mean, look, yeah, I enjoyed making money and doing and living well and having, fabulous places to live and all that stuff. But just as important, I recognized how being in business and dealing with those people is a constant reminder, Stuart, you have a long way to go yet to get to God. And I became grateful for that. And I listened to that. And I would use that, as just as a reminder that I still have to grow. I use it today as a reminder that I still have to grow. Because if you stop growing and you stop evolving and, allowing yourself to undergo the struggle of growth, all the creativity stops. It really just eliminates some vital, really creative aspects of life. And it's a good smack in the face. Hey, we need to work. God is infinite. There's no limitation. We need to grow. We need to get, So I've been through it, Bob, probably 100 billion times, right? And part of the reason that my life has developed the way it has is because of all that stuff. I could tell you stories and I won't, things that were just horrible that I had to deal with from other people.
Stuart, how did you work with Rudy's mother?
I brought her a bottle of scotch. Well, that's how I worked with her. You know, look, when I first went to her gallery there, and she was going to fill up a truckload of art. I mean, it was when I walked out of there, I said, I'm never going to go back again. You know, it was horrible. It was really bad, difficult. And then I sat down in meditation, and Rudy came. And I said, how do I deal with your mother? Bring her a bottle of scotch. That was the answer. You know, I mean, I wound up in a gigantic Oriental art business because of a bottle of scotch. I listened to Rudy. I went to a liquor store the next day. I bought a bottle of Chivas Regal because I knew she liked it. I went to the store. She greeted me, and you know, and I gave her and the whole energy changed. It just changed. It was absolutely extraordinary. But that was Rudy telling me what to do and me listening. I mean, and then, you know, 6 months later, every day she used to call me, I need money, I need money. I mean, you know, I'm in Denton, Texas, trying to sell Buddhas to Baptists, you know. It was really a very difficult situation. And I need money, I need money. So I sat down in a meditation and I asked Rudy what. He said, send my mother money. He sent her money and I paid off a huge debt, you know, huge. I think I owed them, I don't know, her $170,000 that I got myself into debt for. I paid it off. And I grew because of that. God bless them, you know. It was an opportunity for me to grow, and it became an opportunity for me to build an enormous Oriental art business that allowed me to support that ashram in New York, or that meditation center in New York. But all of it was about internal work, never blaming the world. You know, because if you blame the world, in 10 minutes, every ounce of energy you had from the moment of birth will get drained into the world because there's so much to blame. That in itself should be a clue. Do your inner work, grow inside, get bigger, develop the chakra system, and don't bitch about situations that are difficult because they come into your life in order to help you truly evolve and grow. And I mean this. I mean this. I mean, it was the same thing in Texas. You know, I went to the bank and I showed him these plans for this house that was to die for. The banker looked at him and said, are you kidding? You're building this in Texas? I said, yes. I told him what I needed. He offered me half. I said, well, here I am in Denton, Texas. He should have offered me double when he saw the plans for this house. So I said, all right, I'll take it, you know? And I knew from past experience, the only way I would get that house built was I had to go up and get the energy from the cosmos that gave me the strength to work through the pressure, the tension. You know, a lot of the pressures and tensions I never told anybody at the ashram there about, that I had to work through in order to get that place done. And it was the energy of God that made that place happen. And that's how it got finished. So what I'm saying is, you know, pressure, difficult situations, not the end of the world. Although we can make them the end of the world because we become a victim of life. And that is probably the worst way to live, to be a victim instead of opening. What am I learning? How can I grow to do this? What can I do in myself to build a chakra system that's strong enough to, how deeply can I work in the meditation classes? I mean, for God's sake, there was one time I went to Calcutta to get an answer from Ramakrishna because I was in such a difficult situation. And frankly, I'll tell you, there is no place worse in the world. Calcutta, to me, was like the armpit of the world, you know? And I was told by Rudy, go to Calcutta, go to Ramakrishna's place where he taught. You will get your answer. I went and I got my answer. I didn't say, oh, well, screw that. I hate Calcutta. It's there's poverty there like you've never seen in your life, beyond the pale. I went, and then I kept going back again and again and again to Ramakrishna's, what's the name of that place, Chris?
Dakshineshwar.
Dakshineshwar, yeah. I went again and again there to sit with him and Sarada Devi and get answers. I remember once I went and I was told about this I'll never forget. It was one of the most charming and wonderful things that ever happened to me. I was told about an orphanage that was really maybe a couple of kilometers from Dakshineshwar, about this monk who was running this orphanage there, the Swami. So I told the cab driver, I said, take us to, Ramakrishna's orphanage. So he took us there. And I'll never forget meeting this Swami. He just was such a sweet, wonderful guy. And he took me on a tour, and he took me to the girls' dormitory. And there were all these like 8-year-olds and 6-year-old little girls there, that were street kids. And this particular Swami took them all in and nurtured them and fed them and was educating them. It was an amazing guy, he was really wonderful. And there must have been hundreds of these kids there. And I remember standing there looking at them with a big smile on my face. And I said to them, my name, Stuart. What's your name? And anyway, it went back about 10 times and I finally got what I was talking about. And every single one of them told me their name. And then about a half a dozen of these kids just jumped in my arms, sitting on my shoulders, my head, 2 arms. I'm telling you, I was carrying those. And the Swami was standing there with a smile on his face that I tell you, it was like looking at bliss with a smile on his face. It was so extraordinary. And that was in hell. I'm talking about in that area of Dakshineshwar. There's such poverty there. There's beyond comprehension, And all these kids, we had so much fun.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Just do your inner work. Don't worry about how difficult it is. You are stronger than whatever they give you to test you. You have to go up where the energy is and bring it into your system. And the best time to find out about how much work you is just being in business, money. Money is the great test in life. Really is. People are scared shit of it. They wind up living in poverty, or they get involved in it in a big way, and then, oh my God, they're ripped apart. They have heart attacks, this, that, the other. It's one of the biggest, and to get above it, to where it no longer affects you one way or the other. I mean, I'll never forget. I think I told the story, I got a phone call one day, 5 minutes before a meditation class, that I just had, anyway, I won't tell you why, but I lost a fortune of money. Fortune. Between all of that was invested and everything, and myself, and we lost probably what it was valued at for selling, probably $1.5 million. One phone call, and I had to teach a class 10 minutes later. You talk about having to grow. That was the money I was going to use to buy Big Indian. I had one sculpture sold for $500,000. I just had to get it. And that was going to go to buying Big Indian, Obviously, it wasn't meant for me to buy Big Indian. God took it away from me, But to sit down and teach a meditation class, you talk about having to go up to a high level of consciousness to maintain a sense of balance with that kind of bullshit going on, you know? But I grew. It really became a test for me, and I used it not as a way of destroying myself, a way of growing. And just to get to the basic, honest truth, I learned this from Rudy. I saw how Rudy worked in his life. I saw his pressures, the things he had to work against. That's where I learned it. I didn't know this before I met him. I was running away from the world. I didn't want to, have money. There was no interest to me working like that, and I learned it from him. The value, he always used to talk about a diamond is a product of 50,000 years of pressure. You get a diamond, you get an emerald, you get a ruby, the earth's pressure. Human beings, when they can transform pressure into love, into joy, into surrender to God, they're diamonds. They become diamonds. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Great question, Bob. Very important question. Because it's not only you, it's everybody that's up against that kind of pressure. Okay. I just, mentioned it the other day that on the 6th of November, which is coming up pretty quickly, the daylight savings time. So please mark it on your calendar. The class, it's going to be the same time here, 11 o'clock, 7:30. But it might be a different, if you're in Oregon, you're in, I don't know, Brazil, it's going to be a different time. So mark it on your calendar and remember. Otherwise, it always gets very confusing when people show up late, or is there class today? Just mark it down. The time is going to change. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart?
Yes?
So as you build a stronger system and live in a higher state of consciousness, do you even have a desire to engage in business, or you reach a place that you just want to give back, that you just want to teach? I mean.
Well, Larry, I pretty much reached that place. I thought I would go back into the Asian art business. And then I said, Stuart, what do you want to relive your past? You are doing God's work in this world. You will be provided for. I mean it. I'm also not 50 years, 40 years old anymore. I mean, I was going to, to Asia 4 times a year. I mean, it was unbelievable, And so yes, you arrive at that place. And I was told you have to do what you're doing. You will be taken care of. People will provide. You will be taken care of. And that's when I decided it's enough. I don't want to be in that business anymore. I don't want to relive my past. I don't want to open a gallery in New York. And I mean, this thing is growing. There's a lot of people that are really benefiting from these Zoom classes. And I'm willing to take it on myself. And it's not easy. I do 7 of these classes a week. Then I have 2 in-person classes here a week. I mean, it's a lot of work. Certainly doesn't provide the money that the art business used to provide. But I don't care about, it's what it provides. As long as I can pay the rent and eat. Okay, what else do I need? So I know when I was making a lot of money, all you think about is making more money. That's all you used to think about. The next thing, the next object, the next work of art you're going to find. And I don't want that wrapped around my brain anymore. I want to serve God. I've done all the other. I want to serve God. I want to be a vehicle through which this Shakti can flow. And they can nurture people on the earth, help people to grow. And this is a decision I made. It must have been about a year ago, year and a half ago. I said, no, it's enough of that. I've done it.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have I know people make donations. I'm very grateful. Some people make $5 donations, some make much more, and I'm very grateful. Comes and I really finds a place in my heart that people care that these classes can continue and they're willing to work on themselves to grow to the place where they can make some kind of a donation. It's also a sign of growth. Saying thank you, not just lip service thank you, but hey, thank you for one's actions. So God bless you all. And again, for just being here, doing this, it's such an opportunity for all of us to grow and to really build the kind of chakra system I talk about that gives us a direct connection with God and ultimately spiritual enlightenment. That's what we're all here for. Okay, thank you, bless you. And there'll be class on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
All right, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you.